Hello, race fans. Welcome to a new edition of our EKN OutLap. It is episode number 57, June the 6th, 2023. We say a shout out to everybody from EKN Nation through the month of May, as David Cole talked about in his podcast, kind of a downtime. It's time to refire up with a bunch of events on the national level through the mid part of the season. Again, as you all know, they're OutLap, our preview podcast for an upcoming EKN Trackside event. And today's event will, of course, be talking about this coming weekend, Superkarts USA Pro Tour SpringNationals. Back at it with the SCUSA National program, having run the Winter Nationals at Orlando back in March, back to get at it again here in Utah. This edition of the EKN OutLap, episode 57, presented by Acceleration Kart Racing. Acceleration Kart Racing has everything you need to go racing, from tires to helmets. They have a great website for you to order from, and kart racers ready to pick up the phone and answer your questions 6 days a week. With over 20 years of kart racing under their belts, Acceleration Kart Racing has the experience to help you succeed on the track. You can rely on them to get the parts you need when you need them. Make Acceleration Kart Racing your go-to source for everything karting. Head to www.shopakr.com. David Cole on the show, as is Nate Dean as well. Lots going on. I'll be trackside throughout the weekend at the Superkarts USA SpringNationals at Utah Motorsports Campus in what is now Grantsville, Utah, on June the 9th to 11th. Nate's going to be back home quarterbacking things from the home office. David, let's start with you because I prefaced it. A lot of feedback on the article that you wrote about kind of the month of May. Maybe we should kind of take that off. Maybe that could become the official off season for national racing. A lot of feedback on that, but again, that's kind of done. We're into June. Back at it.
Yeah, time to turn the page, as Bob Seeger would say. I listened to him during lunchtime. So,
nice.
The live from Detroit. Somebody mentioned that on social media, so I had to download it, listen to it. Has some good classics in it, but turn the page on the month of May because we're into June. It's time to get back to a lot of racing ahead for us, especially coming up in. They keep changing the actual hometown, but it is Grantsville, Utah, for the Utah Motorsports Campus.
Tuele, Erda,
outside Tuele,
Grantsville.
outside Erda, outside Grantsville. It just depends on which zip code you want to be in, I guess.
That's true. That's true.
Excited to get going. And again, I think this is the third SCUSA race I've missed in the last 13 years.
Wow, what's happening?
Dance recital is actually happening. First it was spring break. Now it's dance recital.
There you go. Again, the date, June the 9th, 10th, and the 11th, this coming Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, rounds 3 and 4 of a 6-round program. As we know, this championship closing in on its 15th season, started back in 2010. David Cole and I were trackside there at Sonoma Raceway for the start of what was the first Spring Nationals. Back then, there was no Winter Nationals when the Pro Tour started. But again, 14th season for this program. Nate, weather's looking good. You'll be at home in Minnesota where at least it's not snowing anymore. Same thing in Canada. I finally was able to come back to an event and not have to put a jacket on when I got out of the airport. It's actually, I believe, spring, almost summer now, but the weather is going to be pretty solid. Maybe a bit of rain. We'll see.
Yeah, looking at the forecast, somewhere in between the 70s and 80s, like you said, about a 33% chance of rain on Sunday, which will always make things interesting if that does roll around, but some decent temperatures for the spring nats.
Yeah, maybe shorts, maybe a t-shirt, but David, as we know, there's one thing you can usually count on when it comes to the event at Utah Motorsports Campus, and that's wind. Right?
Yeah, wind isn't typically a factor, whether it be one day or all 3 days that you're there. So that's always going to be an issue throughout the weekend. Whether it's coming from which direction, you don't know because it changes. It certainly changes throughout the weekend. And they did up it up to 58% chance of rain on Sunday. So make sure you pack some rain gear in case.
Yeah, I'll bring the rain gear. Yeah,
you're heading there. So the weather is always strange. We went the first time we were there was like back in 2006 for Stars of Karting program there, and it was just the one thing you remember about going to the Miller Motors or Utah Motorsports Campus, then Miller Motorsports Park, was it's going to be hot. So to see the temperatures low, I think that's good. That's going to produce, some horsepower. We're going to see some quick times possibly. And again, one thing that we always hear about is tire degradation. So maybe it's not going to be as bad this year in terms of, the tires falling off in pace because the when I say cooler, I'm saying less than 90-degree temperature that we're used to in Utah.
Yeah, indeed. And that's something we'll talk about, of course, in the Paddock Insider. Make sure to tune in. Once I get Trackside on Friday, I'll work my way through the paddock. Lots of interesting news coming in. There's some new players from Europe that are here as well. So make sure you look on Friday for my Paddock Insider. I'll be working on that throughout the weekend. The layout for this particular event at Utah Motorsports Campus, David mentioned that we were there with the Stars of Karting, the Snap-on Sponsor Series back in 2006, very quickly after the track was built, actually in 2005, a full circuit, as we all know, with the entire big track there as well. A 9/10 of a mile layout will run in the clockwise direction. David, it's the 5th time that the SCUSA Pro Tour has been there. We had 1 Summer Nationals there, 4 of the Spring Nationals events. But I think the key to the fact that we are at Utah Motorsports Campus is it wasn't really on the original schedule. Initially, when SCUSA rolled out the schedule for this year's Pro Tour, we were heading to Winchester, California, right near Temecula at K1 circuit. Not surprisingly, we've seen this happen over the years. Tracks will always say, hey, we're going to be able to run at this time. There are oftentimes where it takes a bit longer for things to be done. So K1 wasn't able to get done where it needed to be. So we're heading to Utah instead of Southern California.
Well, Rob, let's preface that with the track was in conception back in 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
So it took that long for the track to get built. So, they're making sure things are done correctly, making sure they got to build the amenities around it first before they can open, because that's a key factor in having a racetrack. You got to have bathrooms, you got to have garages, you got to have offices, you got to have all this, because it's not just going to be a racing track. It's going to be a version of their indoor facility outside. So that's their focus. That's their main goal in this facility. It's not us. It's not the racers itself. It's, getting people involved in the sport of karting, be it through, the rental carts that will be having there. So
yeah, unique for K1, right? A unique outdoor rental program as well. And I think the outlier that we haven't mentioned yet about the K1, and not, again, to kind of give them a little bit more reasoning for not being able to go there, the amount of rain that hit in Southern California through the winter and spring really kind of hindered the schedule in terms of construction.
Yeah, no different than here in the Midwest. Indiana had a lot of rain. They had a delay opening up of their season, same with Ohio as well too. So, we have the new Lorain, Ohio kartplex that's supposed to be being built. We're just now getting trees moved out of the way. So yeah, weather's a big factor, just like we talk about going to Utah. Everywhere across the country, weather's kind of been a factor in terms of, getting things going or delaying things. So that's just kind of the way it is, and always a factor that you have no control over.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's wrap up this first segment of our Outlap here, episode 57. Nate, give us a rundown of the event schedule for those who will be tuning in, whether they're trackside or following on Kart Chaser, or all the coverage that we'll have on ekartingnews.com.
So those of you that will be down there early, Thursday practice, the unofficial practice run by SCUSA for that day. Then we have Friday practice, 5 rounds, 7 minutes for the first 4, and then 12 minutes for the final happy hour session. For Saturday, round 3, you have warm-up, quali, pre-final, which will be 10 laps, and then finals will be 20, and then 18 for the cadet categories. And then same deal on Sunday, warm-up, qualifying, 10-lap pre-final, 20-lap final for all the classes except for cadets, which again will have 18.
Yeah, and 20 laps, a barn burner around that track, almost a mile in length, as we said. There's your event schedule for the Spring Nationals coming up this weekend at Utah Motorsports Campus. Off to our first break here on this edition of the EKN OutLap, all part of our EKN Trackside coverage of the SCUSA Pro Tour. When we get back, we'll look at by the numbers. It's interesting because surprisingly right now, the numbers are significantly lower. We'll talk about that when we come back after this break. Ready to step up your game? Joining the Rawlison Performance Group is the obvious choice to take your racing to the next level. Industry-leading driver development is provided by our staff of multi-time national champions, Super Nationals winners, and Team USA members. And at the same time, RPG continues to be a national-level powerhouse race team. Our goal is to help you raise your game and win races. We work with all age groups and are focused on developing those cadet and junior drivers who are ready to take the next step in their racing program. Rawlison Performance Group has set a new standard with our in-house engine program, AVP Engines, headed by Alex Vincent. AVP has become the benchmark in IAME competition. we have the largest OTK inventory that follows our race team, providing trackside parts at all the major events in North America. RPG also offers multilingual support with French, Spanish, and Portuguese-speaking staff. If you want to fight for championships or want to improve your skills and your chances to win, the answer is to call RPG at 503-260-4514. The Rawlson Performance Group. We race to win. It all started in 1994 when former successful kart driver Albino Parolin decided to move his passion for karting from the track to his small workshop. That's when Parolin was born. Fast forward 20 years and Parolin's passion for the sport led to the company rejoining international competitions as a factory team in WSK and CIK FIA races, with the aim of enhancing the research and development process, immediately achieving notable results around Europe, North America, and Asia, becoming the CIK FIA Asia Pacific KZ champion in the same year. Parolin USA is North America's source for Parolin products, and we run a factory team at all of the major Superkarts USA and Rock Cup USA events. The Parolin chassis lineup for 2021 includes the Invader Shifter, the Le Mans Tag single-speed chassis for junior and senior classes, and the 28mm mini kart for the cadet classes. Parolin has been winning races all over the world, and it's on top of the podium in the USA as well, with drivers like Kai Sorensen, Mateus Orjuela, and Alessandro De Tullio. Get on the chassis that's winning. Drive a Parolin. For more information, head to ParolinUSA.com. For over 20 years, Greg Bell has been building race-winning power for kart racers. One need only look at his team, Leading Edge Motorsports. He's always built engines for his team, and the results have been wins at the biggest races in America, the SKUSA SuperNationals and the Rock Vegas events. The name on this program? Mega Power. This year alone, Bell and Danny Formel teamed up to sweep the Rock Shifter class on the Florida Winter Tour, all on a Mega Power engine. If you want to win shifter kart races, it's time to put Mega Power on your kart. Mega Power specializes in gearbox engines, such as the TMKZ, Rock Shifter, and IME Shifter, but with almost 3 decades of engine building experience, Bell develops winning motors for X30 and Mini Swift and everything in between. The combination of Greg Bell's engine building skills and his chassis tuning knowledge is a potent mixture. Greg's helped catapult many drivers to wins over the years, including Mercedes F1 star George Russell, who won the Supernats 14 in 2011 with Leading Edge Motorsports. Increase your odds of winning at this year's Rock Vegas or Supernational events or throughout 2023 by calling Greg Bell today at 209-747-2613 to put Mega Power in your corner. Welcome back to episode 57 of the EKN OutLap. Rob, David, and Nate on the show here for this one, talking about this coming weekend Superkarts USA Pro Tour SpringNationals. And David, before the show started, you and I kind of talked about it a bit. We've been talking about it for a lot of years, and to be real, so much racing going on. Really a ton of it. The most of it happening a lot really on the East Coast now, with the 2 different Florida Winners Series, the USPKS, the Stars Championship right now, which has gained so much traction and just coming off a big event. When you're talking about the Superkarts USA Pro Tour, it's really the only coast-to-coast, essentially East and West Coast national series. But man, when you're overloaded a lot of stuff on the East Coast, there's lots of options over there. We're definitely seeing a significant drop, almost 20% in terms of pre-entries for the Spring Nats, for the Winter Nats, which was 226, 187 pre-entries coming in, and only 3 of the categories actually increasing, the others decreasing, and a couple of them significantly.
Yeah, the significant ones are X30, Senior, and Mini Swift. That's something we've talked about, is how big the numbers have been in Mini Swift. Well, let's look at it in terms of a dad, such as myself. Mini Swift kids are in school all the time. And you taking them out of the school for 4 months out of the year, they got to catch up. It's a lot of catching up. So maybe, a lot of the kids aren't in the championship. That's another reality thing. But like you said, it's a true national, when you look at the big picture, this is the only true national championship we do have that goes from coast to coast and encompasses racetracks across the country, not just in the eastern half or in the western half. So it takes a big commitment in order to do that. And as you said, the scheduling is just super heavy through January and April, as I mentioned in my column last week. So that, there's a lot of different factors into it. And the other is it's Utah again for a third straight time. The SpringNationals are in Utah with the same track layout. Nothing's changed. It's the same thing as 2019. So people like to mix it up. Myself, I love the same thing over and over again. I don't mind that. That's typically how I run my day. But people like to mix things up. I think obviously if the K1 circuit was open, we'd have probably 300 entries, if not more.
Agreed.
There's no doubt about that. But again, a lot of other factors in terms of life, life just kind of gets in the way of your passion and your sport. So that could be another reason as well too. But it is good to see, a bump in 3 categories, but the big ones, X30 senior and mini Swift, again, a Florida bump as well too. That's the other, that's another reason for probably those 2 categories is they had a lot of Florida drivers in those divisions.
And that's where I look to that as well. East Coast, West Coast, there have been times over the 30 years we've been doing this, David, where the East Coast has been super strong. Then the West Coast has massive numbers. Now we're kind of back to where the East Coast, with the number of series they have, the Florida races, and the West Coast is struggling. Obviously, the Pro Kart Challenge doesn't have a huge entry like it had. It's been up to 170, 180 in the past. It's nowhere near there right now. Same thing goes with Northern California. It is gaining more momentum, but it doesn't have the numbers. And of course, you don't have the 120, 150 regular drivers racing at the Utah Club event as well as you would have in Florida. We get the Cal Speed bump when you're out of California. We got the Florida bump, as you said, all the Florida drivers coming out to the Winter Nationals. Just didn't have that kind of thing in terms of Utah. So micro and mini Swift, as David had mentioned, mini Swift down 14 in total. 42 drivers in mini Swift in Florida, only 28 down here. Still 28, 30 carts we consider almost a full field to a certain extent. 19 in the micro category. The X30 Junior and X30 Senior, I'm not really surprised to see those drop at all, David, because the 125cc liquid-cooled categories on the West Coast are virtually non-existent. There's just not a lot of drivers running X30 Junior or Senior. Same goes with the rock categories as well. We see that as well. Obviously, the Challenge of the Americas dropping their 125 liquid-cooled category, single-speed liquid-cooled. So only 11 drivers in X30 Junior, which is a shock. It's got to be the lowest we've had in X30 Junior in the history of this program. X30 Senior at 29, so still right almost at that 30 mark. They'll probably get a walk-up. David, let's go to Masters now. You and Nate can talk about this because Scusa is always the supporter of Masters racing, has been since the very beginning of the program. Go back all the way to the Scusa Pro Moto Tour in 99, 2000, 2001. Masters drivers had nowhere to race nationally. Scusa had the Masters class, right? They had the G1 category. Only 2 drivers in KA100 Masters. So once again, for another year, looks like the Masters class on the West Coast not getting really anybody. And shifters down from 9 to 5. At least there's still 5 Masters shifters, but there was 9 in Florida.
Yeah, I mean, again, the Masters, 7 total drivers in 2 categories, so that's a hinder. That's really all you can do is say there's just too much racing going on for maybe them. When it was only Superkarts USA, that's where everybody went. Now you have, I hate to beat a dead horse, but there's 4 months full of racing, both West Coast, East Coast. And there's just an event last weekend, the Stars Championship Series, where they had almost 20 drivers in KA Master. Well, yeah. A lot of them are regional drivers. I mean, that's what it boils down to. We had that big boom after COVID, where boom, people are going out racing. Well, now, it's added up. We always joke about the average span for a carter is 2 to 3 years. And so now we're in that 3rd year. And so, maybe people spend a little too much money between 2020 and 2022.
A little overzealous, maybe?
Maybe, you never know. So, or maybe people just want to stay closer to home because, again, the biggest expense in motorsports is travel. That's the biggest expense, whether it be airfare, whether it be just gas, whether it be hotels, whether it be food. I mean, eating out, like my wife and 2 kids went out to eat yesterday. It was $90 for 3 people. I mean, it's just, it's unreal the amount of money that, the inflation on all of that stuff, that let alone, karting prices has pretty much stayed the same. Carts are staying the same and price wise, tires and entry fees haven't bumped up that much. So I just think I think Masters guys are just kind of staying closer to home. And again, they have the opportunity to pick and choose where they want to go because they have a 9 to 5 or they have, children to events that they got to go to, et cetera. So yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's tough because it's nice to see them welcoming the KA 100 master class, which we thought we were going to see, grow. We've seen numbers on the West Coast do well. Unfortunately, it's not mixing. There's something missing that needs to get them back to Superkarts racing.
Nate mentioned the fact that the X30 juniors and X30 seniors dropping down, but one of the we've seen this before, especially on the West Coast. The KA 100 category is massive, and that's it's surprising. So we see a drop in X30s junior and senior, but a significant increase in both the junior and senior KA 100s, almost 20% in both categories. So good numbers in both those classes.
Yeah, obviously KA is the engine to go to at the moment, with 7 more than we had last year in junior, 5 more than we had in senior. Not huge additions, but like you said, percentage wise, it's a good jump. So I like going on to what you guys said just about entries and whatnot. You start to wonder if it's more of a thing with like Stars and USPKS are changing things up with one day, one final weekends and all these different things. Same with some regional series, with the Ohio Sprint Series and Route 66 trying new things with qualifying. You start to wonder if SCUSA has been doing the same thing for too long. Maybe if they need to refreshen it up, just try something different than the 2 final weekend and the same thing we've been seeing a lot from. But overall, like you said, I do believe that what David is saying, there's just a ton of racing to start off this season, and that's the big deal.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's
real quick. I got out of the box thinking right now. I'll just hit it real quick and then we can move on.
Buzz it.
Okay, so we got probably maybe 40 drivers in junior racing because a lot of the X30 junior guys are double duty. Mm-hmm. What if we split it up? We force 20 drivers into the X30 junior category and you're only running X30 junior. That's the pro category for you guys. Everybody else who's kind of on that fringe, you're in KA. Like I again, this is a pro tour. Let's start acting like a pro tour. And I've said this over and over again. We don't need people doing double duty. We need to have that separation of, okay, you're amateur, you're semi-pro, like we used to do.
S1, S2.
Exactly. Yeah. Why can't we do that with the kids? Let some of these kids in K100 junior kind of race for some wins and start forcing some of these drivers over into the X30 junior category and be like, hey, you know, there's no reason for you to be in K junior. Let's move you over to the pro category. We're gonna pay you out like we've always done, et cetera, and make you the stars of junior racing in the United States. Because
interesting.
That's, again, we're not profiling these drivers because it's the same. They're racing 2 categories. Well, we can't. I mean, it just makes it frustrating when you do that. So my out of the box soapbox thinking is let's do pro junior and KA junior.
I'm going to throw to a commercial, David. You grab your pen and write that down. That feels like a column coming up, buddy. Start writing, buddy.
I mean, we've said it so many times before.
I like. Listen, I don't dislike the idea at all. It's very interesting. Let's get. And again, it gives the kids that come out of mini a chance to learn to win races because they're not racing against the guys that have been in the category for 3 years, right?
Yeah, or
let's not go too deep into this, but
well, again, if you're fast enough to be an X30 junior, then you've got the license. You've been given the golden ticket to move up right away. All right. If not, again, because that's the licensing program, that was what it was. It was about saying yes, you need a few more. You need a year, at least a year with us under the Pro Tour in this category before we're going to allow you to move up.
All right.
Look at Race Liberante. He's a perfect example. Race Liberante was in Pro 2. He could have easily been in Pro 1, but he ran Pro 2 because they wouldn't allow him to move up yet because he didn't have the experience in shifter kart racing, even though he ran S5. But it's the way it goes. Now it's just kind of a free for all. So,
We will cut to a break. David will start writing a column. Folks, don't go anywhere. More to come here on the EKN Radio Network.
Are you ready to go from karts to cars? Since 1975, the Skip Barber Racing School has taken great drivers and made them champions. Today, we're proud to welcome the next generation of winners. Make the transition from karts to cars with the Skip Barber Formula Race Series. You'll compete at the most iconic tracks in America. Race weekends include your very own equalized Formula 4 race car, a professional crew, expert instruction, video and data analysis, hospitality, and more. This is the place to fulfill your dream of becoming a champion. Sign up today by calling 866-932-1949 or visit us at skipbarber.com.
Fast, fair, and fun. Ignite Karting offers you all of that at an affordable price. Ignite Karting utilizes the spec Margay Ignite K3 with a Briggs & Stratton 206 engine and a Hoosier R80 tire. Everyone in the junior, senior, and masters classes compete on the same Ignite K3 chassis, which puts all the emphasis squarely on driver development. Additionally, Ignite Karting is accessible at the local, regional, and national level. Special events for the 2023 season include the Ignite Majors, which begins with the annual trip to the Daytona International Speedway as part of the WKA Daytona Kart Week as part of both the sprint and road racing events. Those in the Midwest can enjoy the regionally based Ignite Challenge, which just finished up a record-setting season in 2022. Local club programs have also been established in other states all across the country, from Idaho to Texas, Nebraska to New York, with more tracks and clubs joining the Ignite Karting program. Be part of fast fun and great memories with Margay Racing at an Ignite track near you. All information on Ignite events and Ignite Kart packages, including dealers in your area, are available at ignitekarting.com. Get off the couch and out onto the track in 2023. Ignite Karting. Fuel your passion. History, success, family. Those are the three words that can describe Comet Kart Sales, one of the longest tenured karting businesses in the United States. The family-owned operation located just outside of Indianapolis has provided karts, parts, and services for thousands of racers in the near 6 decades of business. Their online store features everything you need, continually adding new parts to their product line. From full karting packages, new engines, spare or replacement parts, and safety gear, find it all at CometKartSales.com. Their Comet Racing Engine service has won multiple major events and championships over decades of karting and continues to offer the best trackside service in the industry, specializing in IAME X30, IAME Swift, and other 2-cycle power plants. Make sure to head to CometKartSales.com or call them at 317-462-3413 to be part of the Comet Kart Sales family today. Well, during that break, hopefully David's been doing his homework already and getting started on a column that you'll see on the website next week.
Well, you need a full national licensing system, blah, 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 blah.
No, let's not go that deep. All right,
okay.
Folks, again, episode 57
Part of it, Rob.
Of our EKN OutLap, our preview of the SKUSA SpringNationals. Time to go class by class. In this particular segment, we'll go X30 Senior, KA100 Senior, and Pro Shifter. Some decent numbers in all of these, even though we got a drop. Still 29 drivers in X30 Senior. Winners in Florida at the Winter Nationals, Joe Turney and Mateus Morgado. Morgado leads the points by 55 over Turney. Diego Ramos right there as well, 69 back. Aiden Ingrata and British driver Brandon Carr. David in the top 5. We've got some more drivers coming in, though. We've got Oliver Hodgson on the comp cart, Hannah Greenmeyer, Steven Eisert coming in. Senna Van Walston, though, for Sodi Kart. Had a chance to talk with Terry Germanovich from Sodi Racing USA, and this is interesting that they're bringing one of the big KZ drivers over to do double duty on the weekend.
Yeah, that's the interesting part, is doing double duty. So he's racing X30 and Pro Shifter, which typically we see him in the shifter kart ranks in Europe. So That's going to be interesting. Again, just adds another bullet to the Sodi Racing USA roster with Harley Keeble. Who else is going to be there? It looks like Jorge Ortiz is going to be on a Sodi kart with Slaw Kart Racing, but also where did he go? I lost him. I thought there was one other. I think he's running K. So we got Keeble.
Gino Sandoval's on a Sodi kart as well, running with the
Salaveria. That's who I was thinking.
Oh, Dustin Salaveria.
Yeah. So again, I mean, Sodi Racing USA is they're going all in for 2023. There's no doubt about that. Might as well, because again, they have such a connection with the factory. Why not bring over drivers who are interested in getting more seat time or helping build the brand and kind of educate the racers here about the chassis itself? Why not bring these drivers over and compete at the big events? That's what Pro Tour is supposed to be about. I mean, we should, we already have that with Mateus Morgado, the world champion racing with PSL karting. So he's representing that. We have Joe Turney coming over with Kart Republic. Mm-hmm. We have, next, I wouldn't be surprised if next year we start seeing more CRG drivers maybe coming over. Yep. That's what we need. I love it. That shows, hey, the factories are paying attention to what we're doing over here and making sure their brand is winning here in the United States.
Yeah, speaking of CRG, Frankie Mossman, who's been doing some F4 racing, he's back with Tesoro Raceworks. John Burke will be with Tesoro Raceworks as well. So you're going to see a couple of CRGs in the middle of the scrap, David, as well.
Yeah, it's a good mix, and we haven't even said one other name as well too, because we're so used to saying his name. But I'll start it off as Ryan Norberg. You know, again, he's a 2-time winner at I think 4 in a row actually let me check my facts on that. But he's won at Utah I think the last 4 times, last 4 main events that have been there in Utah. So he's obviously set the bar previously. Now who's going to be the driver that's setting the bar this weekend? That's kind of going to be it. We saw a lot of different drivers in the mix in speed sports, the United States Pro Kart Series. I wasn't at Orlando, but it was kind of chaotic, hectic, I would say. I think that's a good understatement of the weekend.
I'll say this. I just think that they've been there for 3 weeks in Orlando. It was the start of the SCUSA Pro Tour. Everybody was fired up and ready to go, and so the racing was aggressive. I don't think it was really overly aggressive. I thought the racing was great. I really enjoyed it. And I'll say this: we may only have 29 drivers currently pre-entered into this race, but it's a stacked field. But let's be real. We mentioned Steven Eisert. We have not yet mentioned Caleb Gaffera for Trinity Karting Group, last year's kind of junior superstar coming up and is already really battling it out front. So had some good runs at Trackhouse. Alessandro DeTulio coming with Prime Power Team. You mentioned Norberg already. Blake Nash with Nash Motorsports. Morgado, Massimino, Aiden Ingrata. This is literally somebody's going to have to be outside the top 10. Somebody's going to be outside the top 15. Who could win a race. That's how competitive this field's going to be.
Yeah, you mentioned rookies. I mean, Aiden Ingrata and Brandon Carr are the 2 leading rookies so far in 2023. Yep. Ingrata's coming back from an illness that kept him out of the speed sports event for USBKS. But Brandon Carr has been kind of the spotlight over the last couple of months with, he's the leader in the championship leader in USBKS competition, sitting here 5th. After Orlando. So, what's he going to be able to produce this weekend? How is Ingrata going to be able to come back? Is Gaffera going to be able to come up and challenge these guys to be a top rookie on this season as well? And you already said Greenemeyer's name. I'm just going to add her name one more time because it's her home racetrack. She's the only driver that has beaten Norberg in Utah in the last three events there. So Norberg's won 5 of the last 6 main events in Utah Motorsports Campus. So Greenemeyer, the only driver to beat him in 2021. That was because I think he wrecked at the end of turn 1. Yeah, I forgot who it was with, but it wrecked. And Greenemeyer won that race. Yeah,
lots of people to watch for. Noah Baker, Wes Duchek, who won the 100cc category at the Florida Winter Tour. Cooper O'Clair, Caleb Schrader with Rawlson Performance Group. Jesus Vasquez Jr. Haven't mentioned him yet. So, again, an absolutely stacked field, David. This is going to be a lot of fun to watch. But there are a bunch of big guns coming in as well. So, like I said, there's going to be some really talented guys who are going to be getting frustrated probably because they're going to be outside the top 10, outside the top 15.
Yeah, I mean, that happens. We've seen that throughout the year. I mean, that's the one thing about X30 category this year is we've seen a lot of drivers in contention at different racetracks and different programs, and it's going to continue that way, I think, throughout the season.
Yeah, indeed. All right, Nate, give us a rundown of the KA 100 senior category.
So 33 entries for KA 100 senior with Aiden Levy. Entered for that one. He's hot off of a win at the night fight for Stars and winning the first 2 rounds of the Winter Nationals in Orlando. Levy then will lead points going into this weekend with Josh Campbell, Noah Rosser, Henry Wheeler, and Colin Lloyd behind. Those 5 really were all duking it out in the Winter Series in Homestead, and they were all very, very quick in Orlando too. Keeble doing double duty is the big one that it's on the notes here that I saw in the entry list. That could be interesting for Keeble and Sodi on that side of things. So we've seen him be incredibly quick in X30 competition. I'll be interested to see how he fares in KA 100 senior.
Yeah, does he fall out of the seat, David? What do you think? It's a tough track. It's a physical track, I think.
But it's long. It's a long circuit. I mean, really, I don't. When you say tough, I think Phoenix is tough.
I think, yeah.
And Sonoma's tough. He raced Sonoma in at the Challenge in the Americas and won the Saturday event there in 100cc. So that was his. He had to get used to driving 100cc. It's not something he'd done in senior level competition. So he's done obviously smaller engines at different levels, but. So that was a thing. So double duty, I don't think it's a problem. Again, the heat's not going to be an issue. I think it was 90 degrees, 100 degrees. Yes, that's not the time to be doing double duty. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. Steven Eisert, another senior rookie doing double duty. I just saw his name on the list, but yeah, I think, Campbell coming off Stars victory this past weekend. So he's carrying a lot of momentum, did very well at Challenge, has shown well in the Florida races. They're, sitting there second in the championship for Superkarts USA. This kid's got some momentum, I think he's just graduated high school. He was a state champion in basketball, when we were at the Challenge weekend in Phoenix. So I think 2023 is the year of Josh Campbell.
All right. Well, I was going to start with the fact you think Aiden Levy's the top gun coming in here right now, but you're putting.
Yes, I agree with you on that. I'm just saying this is like a breakout season for Josh Campbell.
I like that.
It's kind of we've seen him in the entry list. He's done a lot of races, and I think it's just a bit of momentum's on his side. But yes, Levy, I think certainly coming in with 2 victories. A driver of the month for April on his performance in Orlando. Certainly helps him. I didn't see where he ended up at the Stars race. I don't even know if he was there or not. But yeah, the kart, yes, he's a driver to beat going in because he's got those 2 victories.
Yeah, 2 other drivers I think we need to watch for it. I would not be surprised to see them in the top 5, top 10 for sure. Would be Frankie Mossman, mentioned him already with Tesoro Graceworks, and then Peyton Phillips as well. Obviously coming off a great, early season in Florida. I think he'll be good. And then David, you mentioned you got it in the notes, driver with some local experience. Good old Austin Versteeg. Was he racing the Stars of Karting race back in 2006 when we were there?
I don't know if it was no. He is doing a lot of road tax racing back in the day.
That's right. He was a road tax guy back in the day. That's right.
He's got a Challenge of the Americas championship under his belt. So in road tax competition, I want to say was among the podium finishers when the Grand Nationals were there at what was Miller Motorsports Park back then in 2011. I want to say. So he certainly has the home track knowledge. It's been a while. I know he's done some club races. But to see him on a GFC, that's going to be an interesting concept because again, Versteeg comes in with a lot of car experience as well too. So this is not a kid coming back to karting from just, leaving the sport. Like he did a lot of car racing. So I'm going to be interested to hear kind of the feedback that he has with Gary Carlton, because again, Gary loves that, that's what he relishes in. And I think Versteeg's going to be really good at that. So we saw how well Jake Drew did in the 100cc GFC machine. Don't be surprised to see Versteeg up there in the top 10 if he's got the physical stamina. Again, when you're not in the kart that often, it does kind of catch up to you a little bit. But it is home track, so he does have the home track knowledge. But that's going to be, I think that'll be a cool dynamic. So you'll have to get with Gary on that and see kind of how the feedback is from Versteeg, if it's like he used to be or not.
Well, listen, again, 9 years ago, that Rotax Junior Championship at the Challenge of the Americas for Austin Versteeg. So back in 2014. So indeed, we'll see what happens with him. Good to have him in there. As we said, a former Kodak champion.
Look at you pulling out the info. Wow.
Yeah, dropped it in there. Couple of quick little searches. We're good to go. you were jabbering on, so I figured I'd go and figure out something else out.
There you go.
Let's wrap this segment up with Pro Shifter, which has seen an increase with 19 entries in total. Danny Formal and, of course, Billy Musgrave scoring the wins at the Winter Nationals. We'll talk, of course, about the kind of change with how things are shaken down. Musgrave comes in with the point lead over AJ Myers by 45. Marian Kremers, Kyle Wick, and Jacob Gulick all within 133 points. But we will not see AJ Myers. That team, the Magic Kart team, not making the trek out to Utah. I confirmed that with AJ. Just electing not to come out, too far of a distance, not enough interest with the team. But David, I think the first thing we need to discuss is the fact that we're going KZ only. We will not see the 175 on the factory car for Billy Musgrave.
Yeah, he was pretty much the only one that had the 175. There might have been one other maybe in Orlando. I wasn't there, so I didn't have the full figures on that. But there's one thing you're going to see in Utah is all KZs on the grid for Pro Shifter. After Superkarts USA made that announcement a couple weeks ago. It's interesting. I actually talked to Musgrave, who was there in Utah this past weekend testing. I asked Factory Karts, I said, what engine was he on? He was actually on the 175. So he's getting practice in on the 175, but he'll be moving over to the KZ power plant. I think he'll be running a TM this weekend. So it'll be interesting to see. He ran actually lap times very similar to what Marian Kremers did in qualifying last year. So, and again, weather's going to be pretty good for speed. I would expect to see some very fast times this year in qualifying for this category.
So we mentioned Danny Formal in the fight. Obviously, coming in P6 in points, was a winner for Rawls Performance Group. He'll be in the middle of the scrap. You got Billy Musgrave, point leader right now. Marian Kremers, as we know, always a perennial favorite since he's moved here to work with PSL Karting. Senna Van Walston, David, you think that's going to be kind of the outlier there? How good is he going to be coming over here?
I don't think it's an outlier. I think it's a focal point. I think that's going to be a focus. I think everybody's going to be watching what he's going to do. You know, always you typically see some drivers get behind one another to see how they fare. I think he's going to have a lot of eyes on him throughout the weekend, especially on Friday, to kind of see where his pace is. Remind everybody why Formal's back in sixth, though, however. What happened to him? Because he won round one in Orlando. Was I think was supposed to start second in the main event. What happened to him there in round two? I can't remember.
Yeah, Nate, do you want to do that, or do you want me to do that?
Engine blew on the stand.
Yeah. So getting ready for the session, engine blew on the stand, not able to make a swap for the engine, which was very controversial. A lot of chatter on that. So it didn't even start race number 2, which was tough for Danny Formal for sure. Now, Nate, we've been there. We've kind of watched it over the winter series. A driver has really impressed me for the start of the season with International Motorsports is Giorgio Carrera on the Lenzo kart. He's really kind of dialed things up. And David, I think we'll let Nate come in first, but I think he was pretty good at the USPKS race as well. Am I correct?
Yeah, finished third there that weekend. Was actually, that's something we saw. You guys saw it, I think, at the Winter Series where he was kind of that second group, wasn't able to kind of close in. Yeah. But USPKS, he was right there fighting Kremers all weekend. Didn't quite have the pace that Formal and Myers had on the weekend, but was kind of right there. So maybe this will be another step forward for him in the weekend. But I wouldn't be surprised to see him battling for podiums on the weekend.
Yeah, and he's been one of those drivers that's really not just the driver, but just the whole team and the kart and developing that and just finding speed throughout 2023, whereas at the start, they really weren't anywhere close to those front runners, and throughout the season so far, and we're only in June, they've really closed that gap to the front of the field. And he was one of those that I have highlighted on the list of entries, which again, a pretty good field for Pro Shifter here. But I think as we get towards the midpoint and the end of the season, we could see International Motorsports on top.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think they've been chipping away. I think Nate's pretty straight up that they've kind of just been making gains like crazy. You throw in perennial front runners like Hunter Pickett and Rainbow City. Kyle Wick and Gulick will lead the GFC karting charge with Connor Wick as well. Masters driver Jonathan Fatolo lined up to run the pro category. So those drivers all look good. David, there's a couple other drivers coming in that I think they'll be interesting. Number one being Nick Leduc with Karting Collective. Good to see him back in here as well. Philip Niemkiewicz is going to be with the PSL karting guys, but let's talk about one to watch. I didn't bring him up when we talked about GFC because I know that you did the article on Ethan Boer. I'm really looking forward to see what he does here this weekend.
Yeah, this will be his first Pro Tour start. So kind of moving up from the rock program that he's been doing over the last year with GFC karting. Finished third in challenging the America's Championship. And really, what stood out was keeping pace with Kyle Wick and Keon Tandon at Phoenix. Again, Phoenix, one of the more challenging racetracks, and he was able to keep pace with them all weekend long. Yeah. So, Utah, again, it's a bigger, wider circuit, so more of a momentum and rhythm racetrack. So we'll see how he does with that, but also in the KZ package, that's going to be a difference for him in terms of what he's been running over the last year. But looking back, again, you said AJ Meyer's not going to be there. He won 3 of the last 4 races there in Utah. Who was the driver that also won?
Kyle Wick.
Kyle Wick. So he's the only driver in the field that has won in Utah in the Pro Shifter category.
Well, there you go, David, giving some knowledge for you. All right, folks, another break. When we get back, X30 Junior, KA100 Junior, KA100 Master, and Master Shifter. We're rolling our way through this edition of the EKN OutLap, previewing this coming weekend Superkarts USA Spring Nationals. It's a multi-time world champion, and it's a Superkarts USA Super Nationals winner. It is Sodikart. And starting in 2023, the Sodi brand has found a new home here in the U.S. Sodi Racing USA is the new exclusive importer of the Sodikart chassis line under the karting distribution banner, led by industry veteran Terry Germanovich. The French manufacturer Sodikart is a leader within the karting industry, offering a wide range of products and services. The Sodi Racing chassis line offers product in classes from Mini to KZ, all based on years of development and championship seasons around the world. Sodi Racing USA has already begun establishing its dealer network, working with the Karting Collective on the West Coast and recently signing PK Sport to serve as a dealer and the official race team on the East Coast. Visit Sodi-Racing-USA.com to learn more about the Sodikart chassis line or call 954-634-5111 to become part of the Sodi Racing USA network today. Sodikart, the world leader in the karting industry. Made in the USA. It's not just a statement, it's the mission at Factory Karts of America. Led by 4-time Supernats champion Billy Musgrave, Factory Karts manufactures their frames completely in-house at the Riverside, California facility. Built and designed from the ground up specifically for the American karting market, Factory Karts brings new innovations and solutions that are long overdue. Factory Karts bring together the highest quality materials to produce a high-performance, long-lasting kart that has been designed and perfected from 3 years of development, with a focus for a big push across North America in 2023. No other karting manufacturer stands behind its product like Factory Karts does, providing a 2-year warranty on all their frames. Do you remember when American made meant innovative, original, stronger, faster, and just plain better? Well, American made is back. Contact Factory Karts today to join the American made movement. Learn more by visiting factorykarts.com or email Billy anytime at info@factorykarts.com. Powered by technology, DID racing chains have a worldwide reputation for superior quality and reliability. Meticulously engineered and manufactured in Japan, DID Genuine Parts are the world's #1 original parts supplier for Japanese and European motorcycle manufacturers. A rich racing tradition where results speak for themselves, DID prides itself on engineering the most technologically advanced chains on the market to help you excel on and off the track. DID's SDH pin treatment creates an extremely hard chromium carbide layer on the pin surface that houses a soft inner core to absorb extreme shock loads. DID's 219 HTZ racing chain boasts this SDH pin technology, which leads to longer chain life as well as excellent energy transmission to the wheels. Available in the gorgeous gold, the 219 HTZ is the ultimate racing kart chain. Pick up a DID chain at your local dealer today, because when winning is the only thing that matters, go with DID. Welcome back to the EKN Radio Network and episode 57 of the OutLap as we preview this weekend's SCUSA Spring Nats and Utah Motorsports Campus. My name is Rob Howden, joined by David Cole and Nate Dean as we dive into this. Let's go into X30 Junior right now. And it's tough to see. Again, we mentioned it already at the start of the broadcast, East Coast, West Coast, just 11 drivers lined up here to run in the X30 Junior category. Those are on the pre-entries. Ernesto Rivera and Max Taylor splitting the wins at the Winter Nationals. Rivera leading the points by 35 markers over Taylor, Teddy Musella, Diego Ardiles, and Jackson Wolney. But David, let's start with you because I know you produced this the preview script for us. But no Musella and no Ardiles on the pre-entry. Those drivers are third and fourth coming in points.
Yeah, not sure on the Teddy situation. He's been with RPG for the last at least over a year. So not sure if there's a scheduling conflict with him in terms of that. Wasn't able to get a hold of him. Ardiles, Florida driver, so probably the reasoning for not going to Utah in terms of that. So it puts RPG 1, 2, 3 now in the championship, with moving Wolney up to the third spot with the absence of Muselli and Ardiles. But even though we only have 11 drivers, I think this is a field that's going to be 11 drivers strong because they're very close together in terms of pace. If they can keep Rivera in grasp, because again, he's been the driver to beat in junior competition. Max Taylor being one of the only few to beat him on the season. So that's going to be kind of the storyline, is keeping Rivera within grasp, and especially in the X30 category.
Well, I'm sure Nate can add to this because he and I were trackside for the SCUSA Winter Series. Let's be real, we haven't mentioned him yet. Stephen Miller's been one of the front running drivers all year long in this junior category. So you throw Stephen Miller in there, Nate, and then you look at John Antonino, Anthony Martello, Alex Mercado, Charlie Smith. This literally could be a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 kart train up front. They don't want to let Rivera pull away, but the bottom line is, Nate, I think we could see a really tight pack. Although it's not a big field, I think it's going to be super competitive.
Yeah, and I think Miller is the biggest competition Rivera has for those who aren't on purple and pink go-karts. But it's only 11 karts, but at the same time, if you put Miller, Rivera, Taylor, and Wolney out there, I'd still go and watch it because those four alone are some of the best in junior category racing in North America. So it's like we said with senior, there's not a ton, but the drivers we do have are pretty darn good, and it's still going to put on a good show.
I think it's a really, really good point. I would literally come to the fence if those four drivers were battling it out. I'm sure they're going to be front and center on the Kart Chaser broadcast this coming weekend. So good point there. Again, Rivera and Taylor in that championship fight. Wolney gets moved up into third with no Musella and Ardiles at least on the pre-entry. Taylor coming off a podium finish this past weekend in USF Juniors at VIR as well. So he's kind of going back and forth with karts to cars. We'll see if that plays any role with Taylor getting back at where he needs to be when we get to Utah. Only 11 drivers in the X30 Junior, but David, 41 in KA100 Junior, an increase from the Winter Nat. Stephen Miller, we mentioned him already being so impressive. He won both races at the Winter Nationals. He leads the points over Oliver Weldon with 118. Nice little gap for Miller. He needs to kind of come in here and could, to be honest, another sweep, David, would almost, put him in the position to lock the championship down. Alex Mercado, Victor de Alencar, and Shea Aldrich also in the top 5. No Weldon, no de Alencar, at least on the pre-entry. So both those drivers who sit second and fourth in the points will not be there.
Yeah, I assume Weldon's kind of running a limited schedule. A lot of focus on Sebastian right now. So Oliver probably focused on racing in the state of Florida right now. But I don't know Victor, so I'm not sure if he's a Florida-based driver as well. So another reasoning. But that basically opens up the gap 140 points for Miller. So as you said, this could be a championship deciding weekend for Stephen Miller in KA 100 Junior. So he's got to keep his nose clean. Even though it's a big field, there's going to be a lot of drivers that are going to be able to contend for this victory, because it's kind of a, if you look at it, it's almost the East Coast versus West Coast.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of these drivers that we saw at Challenge of the Americas that are going to be able to challenge for the first time in the Pro Tour program. And I think so that's kind of going to be, it's not going to be an easy weekend, I think, for Miller, because he didn't even do well last year in Utah. I know he looked good early, but kind of struggled when it came in terms of the main event action. So I think we're going to have a good East Coast, West Coast battle all weekend long in this category.
Yeah, well, look at the guys that we already talked about, right? Ernesto Rivera is going to be in the fight. Max Taylor is going to be there. Jackson Wolney for sure will be in the scrap. Anthony Martella. But yeah, you go West Coast, you bring in a Turner Brown, right? And there's, another driver who's really dialed things in over the last, 4 or 5 months, who I think looking forward to that first podium, potential first national race win, would be Peyton Westcott as well. She's been working, as we know, with Nash Motorsports and with Matt Johnson. So Westcott qualified on the pole one of the races we were at. She's been qualifying up front. Nate, what else you see there? I could literally highlight another handful of guys and of the drivers. Who you think we need to add into the discussion?
Yeah, I mean, obviously all the RPG guys with Montien, Miller, Mercado, Martella, and then, I mean, you guys have been to Challenge this season. I haven't been to the West Coast to see that racing, so obviously there's a ton of drivers that are going to be quick that I know nothing about, that I don't have highlighted, but it's just so hard to predict from like fifth down pretty much. But you always know they're about the top. There's about 7 or so drivers that'll be competing for the win in KA Junior. But like the same way we talk about Rivera in X30, we talk about Miller in KA Junior, where they're both very quick in those respective categories and overall, but they both have their preferences, and it does seem like Miller is just a little bit quicker in that KA competition. And like you said, he was struggling a bit last season, but looking at the layout, it does, flat, fast, kind of 90-degree corners in there every once in a while, just really fast flowing corners. Kind of reminds me of AMR, where Miller did very, very well this season, and pretty much all the time he's been running there. So we could see him do a bit better than last year, hopefully for his championship hopes. But still, with a field this big, absolutely no idea what the top 5, top 10 is even going to look like.
All right, David, who else you got to add? I got a couple extras. I'll let you bang some out, because I'm sure you got a couple other guys to put in the spotlight.
Yeah, I forgot to check them off as you went through it. Did we talk about Burnett?
We did not. No, I was
so Jensen Burnett, the Canadian, actually won here last year in X30 competition. So he's coming back to Utah to race in KA 100 Junior. This time with Chad Dawkin Racing on a Kart Republic. He was with, I believe it was Ryan Perry Motorsport last year on an OTK. So he's been racing a lot of different chassis, a lot of different teams, raced in Europe. So he's kind of all over the place. So, but you can't count him out, because he knows how to win here. So, put him in the list as potential victory contenders on the weekend.
And Stephen Miller's teammate as well. So the data is going to be there.
Yeah, that should be it. Exactly. Right. So that might help, Miller perform even better.
Podium finisher from the Winter Nationals, Chase Basalia. Let's drop his name in here as well. As I scroll down, think about Keegan Kaminsky, Alex Rentala, Nico Sarfati, a couple of the GFC drivers. Of course, GFC has one of their dealers at the track as well, with Scuderia Lytle. So, they've got some track time there through that team. So, again, as Nate said, a lot of drivers could be top 10. And like the other categories, there's going to be some super, super fast drivers down there in 15th and 16th, which just means we're going to have great racing all weekend long in this class. All right, so as I wrap that up, let's go to the KA 100 Master and Master Shifter categories. Kind of gutting to see this as a Masters driver myself. It's super tough. Not quite sure how things are going to shake down. Pat Beckley and Sam Beswick, the only drivers in the KA Masters category. Robert Fige, Luis Gauthier, Michael Gouache, Luis Quiones, and Ken Schilling. David, the only drivers in Master Shifter. What do we got? Daniel Debos, Andre Martins, of course, local drivers to Orlando were the top guys in the Winter Nats. They're not here, as is Luis Mendez. So missing a lot of guys from Master Shifter. And again, everybody that we had in KA100 Master not there as well. Nobody in the top 5 coming out. So, what do? Do they run it? Do they run it at the tail of the KA100 class? Do they run it with juniors? What do you do with 2 drivers?
Yeah, that's the story of this class, is where are they going to put them? I would either, KA100 junior, I think is going to be a little too chaotic. So I think they're going to have to put, if they do move them, I hope they move them. I hope they, kind of change up the schedule come Friday or Thursday before you guys get there, or before you get there. With KA100 senior, I think that's the best option. Let them kind of trail at the back of the field so they can be out on the racetrack. But at least in the Master Shifter category, 4 of the 5 drivers were in Orlando. So at least we're going to have a championship battle. We got Fige, Schilling, Quinos, and Gouache, who were all in Orlando. So they're kind of similar in terms of points. So at least we'll have, last year it was only 2 drivers battling it out for a championship. I think this year we'll have 4. So that's good. Yeah. And I think this category should see an increase when we get to Newcastle. Again, people on the East Coast are staying closer to home. It's in the schedule. It's at the end of July to where people can be part of this event. You're going to see the Crow Show probably. You'll probably see the Kelly family there as well too. So expect to see this category get the Newcastle bump, at least for this. But again, we'll have 4 drivers battling for the championship, so that's a good thing.
All right, folks, one more break. When we get back, we'll wrap up this edition of the EKN OutLap. We'll preview Mini Swift and Micro Swift for this weekend's Spring Nationals.
You want the best? You just got to roll with the best. Streeter Superstands. This is Jeff Wessel from StreeterSuperstands.com. You wouldn't put subpar parts on your racing cart, so why put that cherished ride of yours on anything but karting's #1 lifts and stands, Streeter Superstands. Streeter is the original and genuine manufacturer of the second-to-none Bigfoot rolling stands, stackers, uprights, and industry-leading Superlift. We also manufacture and sell the largest and always growing roster of trailer and shop accessories like tire, engine and jug racks, cabinets, spray can trays, bead breakers, and tons more to outfit any size trailer, team, and budget. Streeter Superstands has over 30 continuous years of experience. We're kart racers just like you and know that the Streeter name represents the absolute best in stands, lifts, and accessories for karting enthusiasts worldwide. Durability, affordability, unmatched quality, and customer service, that's what sets us apart from the rest. Check us out now at StreeterSuperstands.com. Roll with the best, StreeterSuperstands.com.
Established in 1999, PSL Karting has become a powerhouse within the karting industry for North America and around the world. PSL Karting is your complete source for all Burrell Art products as the North American importer, providing this top quality product through both their expansive dealer network or through the PSLkarting.com online store. Whatever you need is available 24/7 online, including safety gear, parts, components, and full karting packages. All 3 brands, Burrell Art, Ricardo Kart, and Charles Leclerc Karts, are in stock and ready to hit the track. Grab your winning chassis for any category by visiting PSLkarting.com to find your nearest dealer. PSL Karting is always looking for interest in new dealers and teams to help create new business relationships. Drivers looking to take their talents to the next level can join the Burrell Art North America race team, competing at all the major U.S. and Canadian events this season. When you're ready to win, go with PSL Karting.
Hey there, my name is Dion Bobmoltka, and I grew up karting and was fortunate enough to one day achieve my dream of becoming a professional race car driver. Looking back at my career, the most fun I had was in karting, but it was also one of the most challenging times in my career too. I often found myself craving expert guidance from someone who had been there before, that had done it and knew the right path forward, but it just wasn't available. And that's why I created Blaze Coaching. It's a platform designed to ensure every driver has the chance to learn from the best, from those who have faced the challenges and know what it takes to become a champion in our sport. Just imagine being coached by 2023 Indy 500 winner Joseph Newgarden, or Indy 500 front row qualifier Spencer Pigot, or how about Acura factory driver Ricky Taylor? They're all here as coaches on Blaze, ready to help you along your path. It's designed to meet you where you are. So no matter what your experience level is, where you race, or what your goals are, your Blaze coach is there to help. Are you ready to unlock your potential? Visit blaze.io/karting today. That's BLAYZE.io/karting.
All right, we're back. Let's wrap up this edition of the OutLap, episode 57. Again, it is June the 6th, the Tuesday before the Spring Nationals in Utah. Rob, David, and Nate here for you all on the show. Let's go Mini Swift, guys. 28 entries in total. Kai Johnson dominating the action. Comes in second place in points thanks to the consistency throughout the entire weekend for Tristan Murphy. Only 10 points separate the two of them. Ashton Woon third. Marco Romero and Travis Pettit round out the top five coming in. But looking at the entry, no Kai Johnson, which makes things interesting for the drivers here in the Mini Swift category.
Yeah, again, just, Florida thing. I think he doesn't live in Florida. I think he lives in North Carolina, but still, picking and choosing his races. And I think he's doing a lot more car races, is he not?
No, his brother is. Kai's not into car racing yet. Yeah,
well, okay. He's not actually racing, but I'm sure he's doing some testing.
He's at the racetrack all the time with us.
He's at the racetrack a lot, yes. So, and he's doing some international racing as well, too. So, not sure if that's going to be a factor because I think there's a WSK race coming up, I believe either this weekend or next. So that could be,
he could be there
as well too. Yeah.
We should have dropped the note on that one.
Yeah. I did not check that when I wrote the script, but
the bottom line is there is a lot of big guns still coming in. Tristan Murphy, yes. David comes in as the point leader and looked incredibly good at the Winter Nationals. Obviously Lucas Palacio as well. I think, would widely be thought of as the best mini driver in the country, at least in the conversation with the top 3 or 4. Lucas, very impressive. So I think he'll be the primary guy to watch coming out of the gate.
Yeah. Gives Murphy's at least got an advantage in the championship now, 69 over Ashton Woon. But Lucas Palacio has been the driver to beat in the mini category. Travis Pettit coming on strong though lately. Yeah. He got a podium finish at the Stars Championship, sitting 5th right now. So again, only 102 points. So, he's got Lucas Palacio to kind of measure himself up. He's been running with, now is sticking with the Kart Republic. So he could be a factor on the weekend, but there's a lot of drivers that can be. And that's the great thing about this mini category is it just some days you'll see 5 or 6 drivers, or it could be, Palacio with another domination again. So it'd be interesting to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, Nate, you've been to a couple SCUSA races with me throughout the year. Who else do you have highlighted there? I got a bunch of highlighted, but I'll let you drop some names in too.
Yeah, pretty much everyone David said. Kind of going back to what we said on the This Week in Karting that we filmed a couple of days ago. It's just with these micro and mini categories with just some exciting racing throughout the entire seasons that we've had so far between series of SCUSA, Stars, and USPKS. It's always just been, since the field is so close and there's so many of them, it's just been a constant change of who's in the top 10, even more so than we see in the likes of K100 Senior or K100 Junior competition throughout 2023 thus far. So it makes it really hard for us, and presumably when it comes time for Super National predictions, we'll be a bit difficult there. But it's just such a close, compact field that I don't really know who you can predict to be up front.
Yeah, I expect to be talking about Rocco Simoni and Royce Vega, a Troy Ferguson, a Michael McGoy. These are drivers we always see kind of working their way to the front and are getting, I've always picked up speed. Fionn Shi, of course, with some international experience running at the, what he's been doing with Rotax as well. Julian Sanchez. David, you mentioned, this being kind of an East Coast, West Coast deal, because you're going to maybe drag a couple other West Coast drivers like a Julian Sanchez, some of the guys, Braden Wagner that you and I get to see when we're at the challenge races as well.
Yeah, this and K100 Junior, those are the mini and junior categories. That's where you see a lot of East Coast, West Coast. There's a lot more drivers. I mean, the fields are a little bit bigger, so you get the geographic diversity in those categories. So this again, there's a lot of different drivers that could be factoring in. And I was doing some research. Yeah, Kai Johnson's doing some Legends racing, so maybe that's where he's at.
Okay.
Rather than doing karting. So I did say he was race car doing race car.
You did. You 100% did. One more I'll mention because I like the story. Jackson Porter on the factory karts machine. Obviously, Billy Musgrave doing a lot of work on factory karts and developing. We know he's got the shifter dialed in, working on that, or dialing in the single speed karts. And I love seeing Jackson Porter on that mini kart for the American-made factory kart program. I think that's super exciting. All right, let's wrap it up with mini. 19 drivers in total. Juan Garcia says Davila and Maxwell Macha getting the wins at the Winter Nationals. Macha had the lead over Gavin Decay, the local driver from Orlando Kart Center, which, not surprising, not there. Local driver stepped up to run the Winter Nationals because it was at his home track. Garcia will be there as well. He's third in points. Liam Nakawati and Josh Bergman. 19 drivers in total, David. And again, the guy coming in with the point lead will be Maxwell Macha.
Yeah, Macha with the victory, and a better overall weekend performance. So that gives him the advantage, which will now be 136 points over Garciars, with Decay not being in Utah or on the entry list. So that, again, it's very similar to what we saw with KA100 Junior. This could be Macha's weekend to kind of solidify himself as the championship driver, depending on how the results play out this weekend. But again, micro, there's a lot of names that could pop up. Colton Schneigenberg, he's been doing really well in the Texas events. So we'll see if he's able to better his Orlando weekend. He suffered a disqualification. Not sure what happened there in Orlando. So he's sitting 10th in the championship, but certainly could be a contender on the weekend. So he's kind of a one name that kind of sticks out on the entry list.
How about Pasha Ali making the move over to PK Sports with the Sodi card as well?
Yeah, that's an interesting story in terms of drivers making a change, the kind of the silly season midpoint of the year. It was he's been Paralympic for the last couple of years and made the move over to PK Sports with Sodi Racing USA. So he'll be with Bergman. I know Bergman, showed pace, showed speed, at least in some of the Florida races, but wasn't able to produce some results. So maybe just needs that right teammate. And maybe Ali could be that driver to kind of help boost both of them towards podium finishes on the year.
And let's be real. Let's remember with the micro drivers, right, at their ages, as they go through the season, they get significantly better, more mature, more seat time, right? Because they're just micro age drivers. The winter series that they run in the sort of winter series could be the first time they've ever kind of run at this level of competition as well, too. So I always like watching some drivers. You can see them slowly start to get more comfortable, more aggressive, and better at attacking a major race weekend like that as well.
Yeah, and they love to follow people. So if they're following a fast person, which was their teammate, it'll certainly help.
That's true. That's true. All right, folks, that wraps things up for the preview. Of course, I'll follow all of EKN. Our social media platforms throughout the weekend. We'll be there trackside to give you coverage. As I said, Nate's going to be back home handling the coverage from home as well, following along with Kart Chaser. I'll be joining Xander Clemens and the crew there. The SpringNationals back at it. Weather looks to be pretty good. David, any final thoughts? I'm sure you'll be busy working on the honey-do list this weekend. Is that the plan?
No, it's a dance recital weekend.
You said you meant, but is it like all weekend is the dance recital? I have no kids. I obviously don't know how that plays out.
You're not. You have no idea about this dance stuff, Rob.
Oh, did I dodge a bullet there or what?
Yeah, you dodged.
Nate, take notes. You're young.
It's Saturday for sure. So it's Saturday all day. So Sunday I don't have to be there because she's doing some of the same dances she did on Saturday. And Aiden's got basketball. So I'll be doing dance on Saturday, basketball on Sunday, and then Friday I'll be helping you guys. I'll be in the office all day, and if you need help, I'll be here.
Well, folks, make sure to look at the CW for the new edition of Dance Dads.
Hold on. That is not a show I want anybody watching. That is not a show I want anybody watching. I will be doing a dance. Thankfully, it will not be recorded. So that'll be good.
Oh no, 100% that will be recorded. I didn't know that. This is great. Yeah. All right. Well, David, Nate, thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it. Indeed, we'll be busy. I'll be rolling in there Thursday night, be at the track first thing Friday morning. Look for the Paddock Insider up on the website. Make sure to follow all of EKN's social media. As you know, we post aggressively on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'll have a lot of great stuff for you on all the social media channels, our daily race reports as usual, the top 10 immediately to Facebook and Twitter after each of the qualifying pre-final and final sessions. Superkarts USA rolling through their 14th edition of the Superkarts USA Pro Tour. Back to the SpringNationals again in Utah. Looking forward to being there at Utah Motorsports Campus. Hopefully the rain will hold off on Sunday, but if it's not, it'll just make things a little more exciting. That wraps things up for, right, David? That wraps things up for episode 57 of the EKN OutLap. On behalf of Nate and David, my name's Rob Howden.